You deserve it though.
Anyways, okay.
You deserve to get your dreams crushed. So.
So here's a good question.
Hmm.
When is when are microtransactions or let's go with loot boxes. Let's say loot
Hmm.
boxes in particular. When is it too much? Like what? When do loot boxes go too far?
I think for loot boxes, like I think when there's, in my opinion, as a game player, I think
Mm-hmm.
when they go too far when you have to rely on them in order to progress in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like say in Warframe, say in order to get past a relay, it was like you have to buy this loot box and you have to get this 1 in 10 drop, this 1 in 10 key in order to get past this relay. Like that would instantly be a no, fuck this game, done
Right.
moment for me. Like that when you know if loot boxes kind of give you something nifty, or if it's it gives you something super cool cosmetic or whatever, like sure, like that's fine. Yeah, if I can avoid it, but it's like nope, you must buy this lockbox item and get this item to get to advance in the game, to get further in the game. It's like nope. I think that's kind of the same with microtransactions, in more general terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I feel like I'm, like being, if I'm being hindered by something that is, what seems like an unreasonable purchase,
Right.
I think it goes too far. But like I think like that's, it takes a lot. The loot boxes are kind of a lower threshold because, there's no upper limit.
Right.
You know.
Um. Uh. An example of what you were saying with microtransactions prohibiting progress in the game.
Mm-hmm.
That made me remember back when I used to play Universe Online.
Mm-hmm.
Because they would make you could subscribe to the game and get everything in the game accessible
Mm-hmm.
through subscription. But if you're a free to play player, you would actually have to buy the content to do the raids in the game
Mm-hmm.
and the high end content. Like,
Right.
uh, you either had to subscribe to access it or you had to actually buy it for like $10.
Right. Right.
And I thought that blocking out raid content was too far, and that's when I stopped playing the game.
Really? Because because the difference is like DDO kind of does the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
where if you subscribe you get access to it stuff, but if you can buy points and then buy access to quest packs, including raids and high end content and whatnot. Like
Right.
it's a little bit different DDO because it's not a very raid centric game.
Right.
Most of the gameplay is basically kind of working your characters efficient. The super high end stuff is efficiently working your characters up to max level, resetting them to first level for a small bonus, and keep on doing that.
Right.
And like literally doing this for dozens of times. Actually, I think about like even hundreds of times now. In order to get like maximum potency character.
To completely min max.
Right. Like you get like +1 to something that like a level 1 you get a +1, a level 3 you get a +2 or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
you get a permanent +1 to your character type thing.
Right.
But you do it 3 times, you get a permanent +3, and then caps out at 3, and then you can do this with across a dozen things, and then there's another dozen things you can do it for 3 times each, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, up like that. But like I actually like that type of model where it's like because like if you're not interested in raiding, you don't have to buy the raid content.
Right. Well, in DCO, that was like the main content. It was very wowish in that sense.
Right. Well, I mean, but people do other things besides play. Kind of do other things besides run the high level content. You could do alts and whatnot. I mean, that's kind of the advantage of like for like an example in DDO, I buy the quest packs. Well, I unlock the quest packs on all my characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I might buy the quest pack for because I want to play on this one character. Well, if I roll an alt well, that quest pack is still bought, still purchased, still unlocked.
Right.
And so the idea I like about that is, I kind like, in some ways I kind of view subscriptions as holding my character hostage. Like if I stop paying the protection money to Square Enix, my character goes away and I can't access it.
Right.
In Final Fantasy 14, and in Dungeons and Dragons Online, I don't pay any money. Like I could not pay another penny to the company. Wouldn't be great for them, but I could do this, and I'd still get access to all the content I currently have.
Mm-hmm.
And I can maintain that content, for free. I mean, obviously, if everybody does that and pays them more money, then the company goes out of business. That's not great, but
they're counting on people to want to have those subscriptions.
Right. The subscription, or to buy more content or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they just have to ensure to release content to buy. Oh, I think I need that.
Do I need Mag?
I don't have Mag Prime.
I bought Mag Prime. I get Mag and Volt mixed up. I need to collect pieces for Volt, not Mag. Where else go?
Yeah, I missed Mag's entire cycle. Because that was before we did Relics. Back then, you actually got the part straight from running things.
Right.
Back then that was, that's what the Void was for.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. But yeah, so I think that I think the other thing kind of interesting about loot boxes, kind of like and something I don't quite buy into is like kind of the fear of it being gambling.
Right.
Where like because gambling usually implies the gambling kind of implies that there's some value you can get back out of it. I'm paying, like, you go to Vegas, you put your money down on cards, on a gaming table.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that there's a chance, depending on luck and some skill, that you could win more money out of that than you pay into it. And you can kind of argue, like, some people have argued, like, the Steam, CS Global Assault or Global Offensive or whatever, CS:GO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, like that, this constitutes, like they have lockboxes and keys. This constitutes gambling because you could spend $5 on keys, but then get something you can turn around and sell on the market for $50.
There actually are gambling sites for CS:GO.
Right. Well, I mean, okay, but that's a separate issue. Like, I'm just talking about purely the lock. It's like,
right.
Opening a lockbox. Yeah, like there are gambling sites where you can basically put up things to wager on the outcome of an event. But I'm talking about people complain about just purely about lockboxes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can buy, like I said, I buy $5 worth of keys. I open something that's worth $50. Well, I made 10 times investment. This is they see this as kind of the equivalent of going to Vegas, putting $5 down on a blackjack table, walking away with $50.
Dejara is suggesting that it's more like slot machines than blackjack, but you're making a parallel.
Right. I guess the slot machines are probably better because it's pure random chance instead of like any sort of skill involved, like with blackjack or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a hard time kind of buying into that.
Because you're still getting payouts. It may not be
the
one particular thing that you want, but you are getting payouts every time.
Right. And just because you get lucky and have something, I mean, it could be like, but it's even something, the kind of same thing that with in Warframe, you can kind of look at that. Like, if you get a really lucky relic drop, you might have something that's worth, a bunch of platinum, 100 platinum, which is like, almost $1. Maybe you spend platinum on a relic pack and you get something and get more platinum than you paid in. And I think it's one of those things that you kind of like. You know, I think if it were more direct, like you pay money and you get out money immediately, that would kind of make me feel a little more uncomfortable about it. But I think, and the last thing that we kind of like want to talk about in this topic was one of the things I want to talk about is like time versus money investment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the problems I have with with the hate of a lot of microtransactions stuff. Is that a lot of times microtransactions are essentially a replacement for time investment.
Right.
Where in old MMOs, if you want something like in EverQuest or Final Fantasy 11 or whatnot, if you want something, you sit your ass down, you grind through monsters waiting for a drop, and you got the item. And the problem is that like this type of model, this works well for subscription based models, because if you're going to sit down and invest 50 hours of your life to grinding something, well, guess what? You're not going to casually toss that away. You're going to essentially stay subscribed for longer because you've invested so much time into getting your gear.
Right. That's how it was with Star Wars Galaxies and getting my Jedi Master robes in the game.
Right. Exactly. Like you're going to want to kind of stay subscribed to the game for longer because you've got that investment.
An entire year of my life I'll never get back.
Well, I mean, but this is true. I mean, and this is like, but people are fine with this because like this has been the way that most of the games have run. You invest a lot of time, with a lot of microtransaction stuff. Like a lot of the stuff is convenience. Here's something that doubles your drop rate, for example, or gives you more experience, or whatever, lets you move around faster. The idea being that like you're spending money in order to save time.
Right.
Whereas the other person had to spend 50 hours grinding this thing. You spend if you say you could buy the same thing off a cash shop, and like say you're fairly well paid, so you make $50 an hour, and something's like say they throw it on the market for $50. Well, that from an economic point of view, it makes sense for you to go and spend $50, rather than grinding it for 50 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think like one of my biggest kind of frustrations with this is like people are used to kind of the old system and value time a lot less than money, because the company is making money out of it instead of that just making you grind your life away for an item. Grinding, spending hours to grind something seen as virtuous, or just paying for something in a cash shop is seen as horrible. Even though like some people just have more time than money, have more time than money, and other people have more money than time.
Mm-hmm.
But so
yeah, like my stance is always, the more options people have available to them, the better off a game tends to be.
Right. But I think that part of the problem though with this is if you have the option to grind for something for 50 hours or pay $50 for the drop,
Mm-hmm.
the attitude is, well, the person who spent 50 hours grinding for it is more virtuous.
Right.
They earned the thing, whereas the person that paid $50, they didn't earn that. They just bought that. It's not fair. It's not fair to the person that invested 50 hours, even though like this is something, it's supposed to be something entirely for entertainment value.
There's some level of prestige.
Right. And especially when we start getting online, so now we kind of go to the Bartles thing and the achiever mindset. The achiever mindset is the person that spent 50 hours grinding for something is virtuous. This is an amazing person that's a good player that is worthy of respect. But the person who went in and basically short-circuited it and bought the item for $50, even if it was directly from the developers, from the cash shop, is a slacker, is a terrible person, is not playing the game right.
Right.
And so I think there's a lot of bias in that way.
Yeah, that makes me think about holocrons in Star Wars Galaxies.
Mm.
And there was one particular holocron that I was always trying to get for my Jedi Master ropes, and one of my friends had that holocron, had to spare one of those holocrons. And these things, you could buy them from people, but no one ever had one for sale.
Right.
So, like, when... Yes.
Oh.
But, so, when they became available, when someone had one up for sale, it was for a ridiculous amount of money.
Right.
Because they had literally no competition.
Right.
And so, like, one of my friends had this holocron on display in their house.
Right.
As a decoration. And I'm just like, you son of a
bitch. Right.
It's like the last piece that I needed to get my robes, and this guy just has one sitting around in his house.
Right.
As a decoration.
Right, as a prestige. I'm like, yeah, hey, look, I'm so well off. I'm so amazing. I can just leave this around as a bauble. Right. Right.
Like, I stopped talking to him because of that.
Wow.
I was just like, I can't even deal with. Well, he would bring it up every single time. Just like, oh yeah, I found a new place to put my Sith 4-5, and I'm just like, fuck you.
Right. He wasn't just bragging about it; he's rubbing it in.
Yeah. While I'm out there grinding 6 hours a day, every day.
Right.
Was there any way to steal it? God, I wish. I would have if I could have.
This is that mamby-pamby. People stealing from each other. Yeah.
No, there's no way. People's houses in Star Wars Galaxies were considered sanctuaries. So nobody could do anything to somebody else's house without their permission.
Right. You just had to wait for a dupe bug to...
Right.
Then they convinced them to let you use the hologram.
I don't remember there being any dupe bugs in Star Wars Galaxies, now that I think about it.
There probably were, but it's probably I mean, the crew that made Star Wars Galaxies was pretty experienced, so they probably had they probably knew what to look for, and because I remember like one of the designers talked a lot about they had a lot of metrics looking at the economy and whatnot, and they had, so they had their hand on the pulse pretty much, and so I'm sure if there was a dupe bug and they saw this super item is suddenly 10 times more common. I guess we need to look at how people are handling this item.
Yeah, for a game that was extremely economy heavy.
Right.
I mean, there was nothing in. Well, I can't say there was nothing, but there were very few things in that game that were not player made.
Right.
Until much later in the game when they started releasing like raids and stuff.
Right.
And then you got like rare drops and stuff out of that, but
Right.